Or on you.
No,
Oh,
it's
I
just
see it. It's live now.
it's live.
Yeah,
We
Monday
live, baby.
motivation.
All right,
Yeah,
bet.
thank God it's Monday with my boy John Jakubik. What's on your mind right now? Let's share some Monday motivation for the people.
Let's get it. Well, Beans, you know what? I think for me, I talked about this the other day, but I try to get up a little bit earlier and start my mornings off on the right foot because I think that's the one thing that we can control is going to be our mornings. And as you kind of work throughout your day, stuff can get a little hazy, you get pulled in different directions, what have you. So I always try to start there. And what I was reflecting on this morning was ego and trying to check myself a little bit with that ego because I think where ego stimulates, dude, is when you find yourself in comfortable situations. So if I'm surrounded by people that are like minded, that don't really challenge me like so, my ego starts to build. If I get kind of complacent with my physical level of activity, my ego starts to build. But on the flip side of that, if I'm always putting myself in situations that are challenging me physically, mentally, emotionally, what have you, as a result of being challenged and seeing that I'm not as maybe as good as I wanted to be or think I am, that ego starts to break down a little bit. So I've been thinking heavy all morning about how I can be better at putting myself in situations or around people that are going to break down that ego a little bit. Then as a result, I can find a little bit more growth from that, if you will. So I don't know how you feel about that, but for whatever reason, that was real heavy with me as I was praying and meditating, whatever this morning. And it might be the 4 cups of coffee I'd be drinking too, but I don't know, man. That's kind of what I'm rocking with this morning. So
Yeah, ego. It's always good for to get those humbling situations, and I always say that life is undefeated. Life is always undefeated. You know, your ego will get knocked down. You will get humbled. We've all been humbled, but it's just the way you put yourself in that mindset in that situation to understand that you can't be cocky or arrogant about certain things, because life will come back and get you. But even I know you haven't watched yesterday's documentary, The Last Dance. Ego's a huge part of the first two episodes.
100%.
And it's not just from Michael Jordan. It's from, management, Scottie Pippen. So ego can deflate you.
Yeah.
But, not having too much of it, I think, is good. But you got to be confident about yourself and what you're going about.
1000%. But to me, like I always try to coin it as confident but critical, right? So when push comes to shove and I got to be about it, I'm going to be about it because of what I've already pushed myself or the situations I've kind of been in. But at the same time, when it's all said and done, okay, reassess, self evaluate, see what's up. And that's when the critical aspect comes into play. Whereas if you just rest on what you did yesterday or what I already am, I don't know. I feel like I can kind of get in a rut in a good or bad way. Um, and I don't know. So like for you, let me ask you this, Beans. When it comes to self evaluation, and obviously you're a talented cat in a lot of different arenas, but the way that you take is you always want more. You want to keep going. So how do you kind of tread that line between okay, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm about, this, that, or the other, but then also being real with yourself, saying I need to get better at X, Y, and Z. Like how do you kind of tread that line of being comfortable versus kind of uncomfortable, if you will?
Well, I just know now that I'll never have all the answers. I'll never
Facts.
have all the answers. And, being in the NFL and going through certain situations and sometimes playing some of my best and most consistent ball, I've been cut. So
Hmm.
that's a humbling experience right there. Being undrafted, humbling experience, being humbled by great leaders,
Facts.
Peyton, Eli, like, all right, yeah, you think you made it and you're in the NFL, but then in the NFL, there are different tiers of people. And I've gone through situations where I know I can be the starter. I want to be the starter. I want to be the number one. I want to be the go-to guy, especially in the NFL. And then that opportunity comes up. Do you know? And then life is like, are you sure you want that?
Straight up.
You sure you want 70 plays a game and you're the target and you're the number one guy? There's a reason why people get drafted in the first round because they've already shown that they can do it.
Yep.
So like if you want to be and play that role, if you want to be the CEO, you want to be the starter, you better perform your job amazing first before you take that step. So that's an ego thing. And that's like, how if I really want to do something, if I want to be an entrepreneur, I got to take the steps.
Facts.
That's just how it has to be. So when people want to take those steps or they want to do certain things in life, you better be doing your job perfect
Yep.
or as close to perfect as you can
I
if you
got
want to
you.
take that next step. That's how I kind of balance it now. And I'm just always constantly trying to learn because I'm not going to learn everything and I'm not going to have all the answers.
Yep. Yep. No, that's perfect. And I think too, and I know I'm guilty of this sometimes, where I think challenge, and I'm just starting to kind of articulate this for myself. When I think about challenge and people see people like you, NFL, NBA, Division One athletes, this, that, or the other, how, oh, they don't get it because they're talented or they got it all figured out. They got all this different stuff. But to me, in terms of betterment, it's always going to be relative, right? So yeah, maybe when you look at the whole scheme of the human race when it comes to football, you're the 99th percentile, bet. But then once you get in that top 1 percentile, it's the same exact thing. There's still this gap between, the bottom and the top and whatever. So to me, no matter where you are or where you stand, no matter where you find yourself, whether it is in the NFL, the best of the best, what have you, like there's still so much more to be found within that top 1 percentile, or maybe you're not even in that. So the growth that you can be able to find if you are in the 50th percentile is even bigger. But like, to me, I've always struggled sometimes with, kind of relating to people who are at your level, at the highest level, where it's like, oh, they don't get it because it just came natural, just whatever. So like, when it comes to that angle on it, does that make sense to you where you can kind of understand that perspective, but then at the same time, how do you kind of counter that and say, no, like I'm with you, but at the same time, like just because I'm at this certain level, like there's still a hell of a lot more to go. How do you think we can kind of get people to understand that perspective on it?
Growth mindset.
Facts.
It's all about developing.
And you heavy on
It's
that.
all about the process. Yeah, that book by Carol Dweck and the psychology of success, and where she talks about fixed and growth mindset. That's where it just really put things into perspective for me. Like we're always constantly evolving. None of the traits that we have, most of the traits that we have as people aren't fixed traits. We can change and we can grow as people. It might take a week, 2 weeks. It might take a couple years.
Yeah.
I mean, question is, what do you really want to change? Do you want to change this? Do you want to grow as a person? Do you want to grow in your relationships? Do you want to grow in your career? It's not going to happen overnight. Never seen it. I've never seen anybody get rich overnight just in one day. So,
Yeah.
People have ideas. They marinate on these ideas. So, yeah.
No, I love that. And I actually thought about you this morning when I was reading this book, Ryan Holiday, Ego is the Enemy. It's been out for a little bit of time. And maybe this is why I was at the forefront because I've been reading it for a few days with what I mentioned previously when we first started. But they talk about people rising to prominent positions of power or leadership or what have you. And the ones that slowly climb, they don't get there overnight because more times than not, if you get there overnight, you're going to come back down just as fast. But the people who make those steady, elevated climbs and are able to kind of sustain themselves over a long duration of time at this thing, there's two things that they kind of build themselves on, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. But it's always going to be education and it's always going to be perspective. And I love that. And to me, what I got out of perspective was value. So if you can bring value to people every single day and you can continually educate yourself every single day, then you are going to get there eventually. Is it going to happen tomorrow? Is it going to happen 5 years from now? Probably not. But if you can get that 1% better every day in those two realms and you add that up over 5, 10, 15 years of time, you're going to make it. You're going to get
Right.
there. But do we have the humility? Do we have the mindset? Do we have the intangible stuff that is going to allow us to trust that process over that duration of time to get us there? And I think that's why more times than not, people don't accomplish that stuff because of how long that road actually is. It's a simple road to kind of understand what it takes to get there, but do you have the work ethic? Do you have the humility, these different things, the drive to get there? And I think that's the biggest separator. And that's why I think people like you, where again, you kind of see you at this level, NFL, wrote a book, wow, he's got it all figured out. And I know the way that you tick, like, bro, I haven't even touched the surface. Like, this is just where I am now. But in terms of where I have to go, like, come on now. Like, I even cracked it yet. So like, I love that perspective of value and education. If you can hone in on those two things over a long duration of time, I think you're gonna like where you find yourself.
Yeah, I'll just leave everybody with this. When you said that people think that I kind of have it figured out, it took me 22 years to get to the NFL. So it took me my whole life.
Yeah.
So that's a long road. people think that it just happened. Oh, you get to Michigan State, and then I played high school football, and I had to like do everything. I had to do things activity wise and play organized sports my entire life to get to that point. So it took 22 years to get to my actual dream. So it took a long time. It didn't happen overnight, and I still went undrafted. So,
Facts.
and then my book, I didn't write that in a year. It took 2 years. So,
yeah. People see it on the shelf. They think it happened yesterday. Hell no.
Nope.
No.
But, perspective, it took you, took you 17, 18 years to get to Michigan State.
Yeah.
And then you still had to grind your way to the top.
Yeah.
And you had to grind every single day being a walk-on.
Yeah. And I never got to the top. And I never got there. And so to me, like, I love that perspective even more because
What is the top? What is the top, though?
Real.
I mean, what does that mean?
Self-imposed, probably. Whatever you want to define for yourself as such.
Right. I don't even know what that means.
But like for me, what's so exciting is I touched on this last week on my podcast was how I had these goals and dreams and aspirations, and I didn't get there. I didn't do it. I didn't do any of it. But the work ethic and the things that I was able to establish in trying to achieve that, coupled with the feeling of failure. Like I wanted to earn a scholarship. I wanted to play. I didn't do it. So I failed straight up. I failed. But the things that I learned along the way, coupled with tasting failure already, I can apply that same work ethic and then level up even more so and remove the fear of failure, thinking like, oh, John's not going to accomplish X, Y, or like that's gone, dog. That's gone. Like I don't give a nothing about if you think I can do it or not. I'm not afraid to fail no more because I've been there. I've done it. I've done it on the decently big stage where I didn't accomplish what I wanted to. Okay. And I don't think a lot of people are afraid to feel that. They don't want to feel that. They're not going to put their positions into. So in terms of the growth that you're going to find by not putting yourselves in those situations, it's not going to work out, at least maybe not to the degree that you would hope for if you were to put yourself in that situation. So like, exactly right. What is the top? And if you don't reach the top, look at how far you've come, take what you've learned, apply it to a different avenue and keep it moving. Like that's the game. That's it.
Reach for the stars, land on the clouds.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, no doubt. I'm trying to go to Pluto, dog.
We'll leave the people with that for the day.
Yeah. I appreciate you, man. Every day.
Yes, sir.
All right, dog.